And now it's time to preview an upcoming game with Ryan Metzler.
Hey everybody, it's Ryan Metzler here again, and today we're going to take a look at another Kickstarter preview. This time we're going to take a look at Terreria Tactics from CGC Games. Now this is a card game for 2 or more players in which each player controls their own deck of 30 cards containing characters, items, commands, and locations in which they're trying to either eliminate all of their opponent's characters on the table, or they're trying to reduce their opponent from 50 to 0 hit points. And the first player to get rid of all of their opponents in this matter will be the winner. So real quick, why don't we check out what the game comes with? And a quick reminder, these are prototype components and cards. These are not the final quality components, but they will reflect the function of the final quality components. So we'll see what we have and what those components are for. We'll see how the game plays, and then we'll come back here and I'll give you a summary of my thoughts of everything else. So here you can see the cards for Terreria Tactics. Now, each player is going to be able to build a deck out of these cards. So we'll see we have different piles of cards. These are characters. Here we have items and commands, and then over here we have locations, which are going to be the 3 or 4 different types of cards you can have in your deck. A character card will look like this. Now, this is a special character called a hero. This one is Zoe the Ingenious, and she is a level 2 character. You can see that at the top right-hand corner of her card. This only means that when you kill her, you'll get extra experience for killing her. She is worth 1 supply, which is a trait you're going to need to know in the game. You'll be able to have 4 supply worth of characters out, and she has some traits on her. She has 30 hit points, she has an attack of 20, and she has a defense of 5. So this is going to be how much she hits for, how much she's able to block, and of course how much damage she can take. And then she's going to have abilities on her card that have effects when she's recruited. For example, this one allows her to search through the deck and find a specific card in order to put it into play. So that's what a character looks like. And we have other characters that are smaller or not heroic. This is a supply 1 character here. He has different traits, hit points of 5, attack of 10, and defense of 5, and of course will have his own abilities. So when you're building your deck, you can choose your own heroes and characters to try and round out your deck. In addition, you're going to have command and item cards, and commands and items are things that attach to your characters. So for example, we have a fireball command here, which says that only spellcasters can use this spell. Spellcaster would be a trait on a specific character, and it says for an action you can deal X damage to target player or character. And if you're level 1, X is equal to 10, and the higher level your character is that's using this command, the more damage you'll be able to do. You'll see there are also items, and items are things that attach to characters as well. This one is a smoke bomb. It's a 1-use item, and when you use it, you'll pay 1 action, and you'll turn target character you control face down. Now what this does is it removes that character from play, and we'll cover that shortly, but essentially you can play this card to remove them from being able to be targeted by specific spells or effects, for being able to have them take damage, or just basically to try and save them so that your opponent can't do anything to them until later. Also in your deck, you're going to have things called locations, and locations will look like this. They're horizontal cards that will give you several things. The first thing you'll see is they give you your actions, so this one's going to provide you with 4 actions. Other locations may provide you with more or less, but most of them are going to provide you with 4. In addition, they're going to tell you what happens when your characters level, which is what happens when your characters kill your opponent's characters. They'll gain experience. And as they gain experience, they'll get different things. For example, in this case, if you have Terreria out here, you'll get 1 experience, you draw a card. If you get 2 experience, you'll draw 1 card and get +5 attack or +5 defense to the character that kills and gains that experience. And as you get higher, you'll gain more levels, which will make your characters worth more when they die. In addition, you'll see each location comes with different abilities. I've got some pre-constructed decks here with cards that came and are built to be played together, so real quick, why don't we take a look at an example of how some turns play, and then I'll give you my summary of the game. At the beginning of the game, each player will search through their deck to find 4 1-supply character cards of different names. These are characters that are not worth 2 supply. So just for example, this is a 2-supply character. He's a little bit stronger than the 1-supply characters, and you can't have him at the start of the game. But this player has chosen 4 1-supply characters, and they'll place them into play. Normally these would be face down, but I'm placing them face up to show you. In addition, they can choose 1 item or command for each character to attach to it, and they'll put those into play as well. Finally, they'll choose 1 location that'll be their starting location, but they'll have all of these cards face down at the start of the game, and this will be their starting setup that they can use to bring into play once the game begins. So we'll flip all of these face down, and after everybody has chosen their cards, they would flip their location face up. We've chosen the Terreria location, which will give us 4 actions when we start our first turn. Each player will start the game with 1 card, and they'll be able to draw 1 card at the start of their turn, adding it to their hand. After that, your location will produce actions for you, and based on the location you choose, you get a certain number of actions. In this case, we get 4. With our actions, there's really three things we can do on our turn. The first thing is we can recruit characters, and we have our face-down characters in play that we can recruit by spending an action and flipping them face up. Now, we're only allowed to have 4 supply worth of characters in play at a time, so right now we're maxed out at the number of characters we can have out. But later we can discard them from play, taking any damage they happen to have on them to our own supply or our own life supply, but get them rid of play so we can bring other characters into play. So the first thing we can do is spend an action to flip one of these characters face up, recruiting it. For example, Peter the Indurate, and he is a character, he has an ability on him. The second thing we can do with our actions is use abilities on cards. So we see here, he says for one action, once per turn, you can have this character gain 5 defense until the end of the turn. That's really more good on our opponent's turn when we're being attacked, so we don't really want to worry about that right now. In addition, you can save your actions to use them on your opponent's turn. So if I don't want to use all 4 actions on my turn, I can save some and maybe use his ability to pump up his defense later when my opponent attacks me. The third thing you can do with your actions is to attack other players, but on the first turn you can't do that. So maybe this player uses 2 of their remaining actions down to 1 action to bring 2 more of their characters into play. You'll see that my items and commands are staying face down, and this is because I can only flip them up, or I choose to flip them up when I want to use them. So they stay a secret until I've decided that they're ready to use, and at that point I can flip them up, expend the appropriate actions to use them, and activate them against my opponent. So why don't we take a look at how combat works, and you can understand why it may be important to save actions from one turn to the next. So let's pretend it's later in the game, and we have an attack all set up. Our player here has 3 characters in play worth 4 supply. He has 1 face down, he has Ethan the Resilient, and then he has the Revenant, which he just brought into play with his first action for the turn, which is a 2 supply character. On the other side, our player still has 4 characters. He has 3 face up 1 supply and 1 face down 1 supply character. He has 1 action left as he used 3 on his turn, and it's now the player over here's turn with his 3 remaining actions, and he decides to make an attack. Now the objective of Terreria Tactics is to remove all of your opponents from play, and there are 2 ways to do this. Either by killing off all of their characters in play, having them down to 0 characters at any point is an automatic win condition, or by dealing 50 damage directly to the other players. And you'll do this by either attacking through their characters, or attacking when they don't have characters that they're willing to block with, and are unable to block damage directly to them. So you'll see here that we're going to make an attack, and for each attack you make, it costs 1 action. So we decide that our character, the Revenant, is going to attack the other player. He has an attack of 25 and a defense of 5. His defense doesn't really matter at this point, but he's attacking, and our other player will choose to block with Bellicose the Insightful, who has a defense of 0, but he has 20 hit points. The attack of 25 will destroy Bellicose the Insightful's 20 hit points, moving him to the discard pile. At this point, there's 5 damage remaining, and this is called overkill damage. This will go beyond the character and hit the player, who will take 5 damage to their 50 hit points, having only 45 remaining for the game, so they're 1/10 of the way towards losing. At this point, our player decides to attack again, using 1 more action to attack with Ethan the Resilient. He decides to attack, and he's going to be blocked by our character here, Peter the Indurate, who has 10 attack and 10 defense. We have an attack of 20, so 10 defense removes 10 of that, and now we have 10 attack remaining. And that would go on to the hit points of Peter the Indurate. But before we do that, our player decides that he's going to use one of his items. He's going to go ahead and flip over his Blinding Bomb, using his last action, and he'll say that a target character's defense becomes 0. So we'll see here now that target character has a defense of 0 until the end of the turn. That means that Peter the Indurate now no longer has that defense, and the 20 damage done by Ethan the Resilient will be applied directly to Peter the Indurate's hit points. And so he takes 20 damage, being reduced to 5. Earlier, when the Revenant killed Bellicose the Insightful, he would have gained an experience. An experience, it shows on our card here, gives us a benefit. So when he gains 1 experience, his first experience, he will be able to heal 10 hit points. If he were to gain another experience later, we would be able to draw 2 cards, as experience is cumulative throughout the game. If he were killed, the Revenant, he would provide 2 experience to whoever he killed him, because he's a level 2 character. In this manner, you're trying to deal damage to your opponent, either by using direct damage cards, which could be items such as firebombs, or by over-attacking their characters and getting that overkill damage. In this way, whoever deals more damage first will be the winner by getting them down to 0 hit points, or eliminating all of their characters. So as you can tell, you're going to want to use your actions to get characters into play, use those characters to attack your opponents, and use the abilities of commands, items, characters, and locations that you happen to have. But there are several things you can do that don't require actions, such as discarding characters from play that you no longer want. For example, for free, I could discard Peter the Indurate from play and put him in my discard pile. However, since he's taken damage, I have to apply that damage to my hit points. Perhaps not the wisest thing to do when I only have 50 hit points and he's taken 20 damage. But it does free up a location for me to play another character to the table. And when I do so, I would play them face down in order to be recruited later. In addition, you can swap items between characters that are both face down. So once per turn, you can trade items between two face down characters before you bring them into play. In this way, you can swap items if you think it's going to be beneficial in a different order later that turn. Also, you can change locations. If you happen to get a different location from your deck into your hand, once per turn you can play a new location to the table or switch between locations you already have. In this way, it may change the number of actions you have, the experience abilities you get from killing other characters, or the actions that are on the card, thus changing the way you play the game. Through all of this, maneuvering and switching cards around, flipping new cards over, and attacking your opponents, you hope to be the first player to eliminate all of your opponents either through killing all of their characters or getting them all down to 0 hit points. Well, there you have it. That is Terreria Tactics from CGC Games. Up on Kickstarter, they're looking for your support, and I know they'd be happy to have you check the project out and maybe even pledge. When you do so, remember that you can get all of these different cards to build your own decks and kind of suit your own play style. I think the game has a couple of interesting things going for it. One, I kind of like the aspect of having cards face down or face up, active and inactive, in order to try and do, special timing events or timing things where you can have a card down and surprise your opponent with it on their turn, maybe in order to block, and there are some cards that are activated on your opponent's turn in that manner. There are other aspects of kind of protecting your cards. Maybe you have a card whose ability you want to use later, so you keep it face down, keep it until you're ready to use it, and then flip it face up when it's time to activate that ability in order to kind of preserve the card, protect it from your opponent, make sure it's not removed from play before you can actually use it. The two different ways of winning the game, either reducing your opponent to 0 or getting rid of their characters, kind of adds a choice to the game in which way you want to play. You can either focus on removing all of your opponent's characters, or you can try and do direct damage to your opponent, either through attacking and overkilling their characters, or by just trying to do damage to them directly, kind of like a lightning bolt in Magic the Gathering. So if this sounds interesting to you, check out their Kickstarter page. I'm sure they'd be happy to have your support. They'll be looking for support for some time now. They just started their Kickstarter, so go and see what it's all about, maybe pledge, and have a good time.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.